Thank you, Whip Clark, and thank you, Congresswoman Wow, for leading on this issue that is so important. Good morning, everyone. I'm Good morning. See, I'm Southern, so I like the call and response. I'm Congresswoman Nikema Williams, and I proudly represent Georgia's 5th Congressional District. And I also serve as the Vice Chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus, and I'm a member of the Congressional Pro-Choice Caucus. But y'all, long before coming to Congress, I spent a decade on the front lines with Planned Parenthood Southeast, pushing back against some of the most extreme attacks on reproductive freedoms in states where it wasn't easy at all: Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. It's no coincidence that these are also the states with some of the worst maternal mortality rates in the country, especially for Black women. It is our responsibility to stand up for the full spectrum of reproductive freedoms, including access to IVF. So I commend Congresswoman Wow and Senator Duckworth for their leadership by introducing a package of 4 bills to protect and ensure access to IVF and assistive reproductive technology. Millions of people grow their families through IVF, and we must protect this fundamental right for everyone. But y'all, protection is only the first step. We must ensure that IVF is universally accessible, no matter your zip code, no matter your bank account. Because y'all, this is a part of our full spectrum of reproductive health care. If anyone tells you that you don't really have anything to worry about, tell them to think back to earlier this year, January, February. I'm sure you all heard the media reports. A disastrous Supreme Court ruling from my home state of Alabama opened the door for lawsuits against physicians involved in IVF. And y'all, it created chaos and heartbreak for countless families throughout the state who were just looking to start a family. IVF cycles were stalled and some even canceled. This started a nationwide conversation about access to fertility care. And since then, my Republican colleagues have proclaimed so-called support for IVF, but y'all, their actions show us exactly who they are. 187 House Republicans have signed their names to legislation that will codify fetal personhood, which would lead to the exact same chaos that we saw in Alabama earlier this year. And I'm very familiar with personhood legislation from my years with Planned Parenthood in the South. Personhood legislation, y'all, it is just another extreme attempt to control our lives and our futures. The decisions to build our families through IVF, they must be our own. MAGA Republicans in the House are ready and willing to take that option away. But that's why we're standing right here in front of the Capitol this morning, just before a long district work period, to call upon our Republican colleagues to stand with families around the country, not Democratic families, not Republican families, not independent families, but all families around the country who would like to start a family. Sign the discharge petition, bring Representative Wow's Right to IVF Act to the floor, and put action behind your promises to protect families and children.